Hi, this is Jean, and I'm going to talk to you more about SIPPS. I know I've spoken with a lot of people about SIPPS. It stands for Systematic Instruction in Phonological Awareness, Phonics, and Sight Words. I did a 1 hour video about it after my first year of implementation. We are coming on the end of first quarter of my fourth year of implementation as a Title I reading teacher in South Dakota. So I wanted to share some information I've learned with you, and also please feel free to give me any feedback if I say anything wrong, if you disagree with anything, if you've done things differently and have suggestions for me, go for it. The first thing I want to say is that I do have videos on my channel, Jean Gunderson. There's a education videos uh, playlist, and I have the 1 hour video about SIPPS implementation as well as Science of Reading Part 1 and 2. You would want to access those Science of Reading videos, especially if you're not sure about it, especially if you disagree with these quotations that will come up in the next slides. I also have a video about knowledge building and some other videos on that channel. If you have anything to share with me, please reach out at the email that is listed there. Dr. John Scheffelbein, who's the author of SIPPS, once said, "The kindest thing you can do for beginning and struggling readers is to give them the time and encouragement they need to grunt and groan their way through sounding out words. You're rewiring their brains, and it's hard work." Zaretta Hammond said, "Competence precedes confidence." And Anita Archer said, "Success is what breeds motivation." And instead of drill and kill, she calls it drill and thrill. Direct instruction is not naughty. I know the Scheffelbein quote is like the opposite of what a lot of us learned about how to teach reading, but I have definitely seen that it has had good results. SIPPS and direct instruction has had very good results for my students. You wouldn't want to do direct instruction all day for anybody, of course, but there is a place for it. And one of the places where it fits is with foundational reading skills. You are responsible for making it joyful. So is it drill and kill or is it drill and thrill? That is up to you. Curricula that I have used that are not part of collaborative classrooms. So my district adopted all of the collaborative classroom literacy products. And for interventions for title reading and special education, we have been using SIPPS. I do not think that SIPPS needs a lot of, or in many cases, any supplementation, but I did want to share other things that I am using in certain cases. After kids pass SIPPS challenge, so that's the highest level of SIPPS, so we're somewhere in third to fifth grade, then, by the way, I teach through fifth grade. If you are a secondary teacher, you're probably going to want to access a different presentation that I have that I'll link below too. So I teach up through fifth grade. So after the kids finish SIPPS challenge, and now they can read any word that's in their vocabulary, it's in their oral vocabulary, they can read it. Now we need to work on fluency and comprehension. This could be earlier for some kids, but for the kids I see, this is generally in the third to fifth grade. So Reading Plus is a software program, and I don't usually like a lot of software programs, but Reading Plus is very good for training the kids for fluency and for comprehension. It has the guided reading window, so it speeds up their reading, and then there's comprehension questions along with that, also vocabulary, and then the visual skills helps them speed up their reading. I think this is a very good product. It is for grades 3 to 12 and beyond, and it is something that I use after my students pass SIPPS challenge. I also use on Morphology Monday or Word Work Wednesday, depending upon the year, teaching how the written word works. This is a book by Pete Powers, and it is published by a small publishing company. You can get that at that link there, and I will have this presentation linked on my YouTube description of this video, so you can just click on that. And it is very good about teaching morphology and how words are put together. Very interesting, good stuff in there for the kids to learn. So I do use that. I actually use that while we're doing SIPPS challenge for some kids. Some kids are in Reading Plus, some kids are in SIPPS challenge, but one day a week we get together and do that together. Ebley Supercharged Lessons. I've tried this at the end of SIPS Challenge. I've tried it right at the beginning of SIPS Challenge. I think I'm going to try it after lesson 20 of SIPS Challenge. I really like how the teacher there, Nora Shabazi, how she splits up things with the dotting and the dashing and the lines and things like that, and shows the kids how words are put together. She is focusing just on phonology, speech to print. She is not doing the thing that Pete Bowers does. So putting that all together is a pretty comprehensive program for foundational skills for kids who are receiving title reading services. There have been special circumstances during which I have done different programs instead of SIPS. I do believe SIPS is a very good program. It works for most kids, but there have been some special circumstances. So one was when we had a student from out of country who was learning English as a completely new language and also hadn't had the opportunity to attend school in her home country and was in second grade. So I did not want to take the time to teach all of the sight words that are necessary for reading at the beginning of SIPS beginning. And plus, also, you're not supposed to teach SIPS beginning in second grade. You're supposed to go right into extension review. She definitely was not ready for that. Instead of that, I went with Super Kids, and I didn't even have the teacher manual or something, but I had a packet of books, and I just went with it and had went through the different books in the Super Kids curriculum that are kindergarten books, but I use it with a second grader, but they don't have the kindergarten level on there. And she absolutely loved it. And she learned how to decode much faster than if I would have tried to teach her those sight words from the beginning of SIP's beginning. And it was a very good thing that I did that because she ended up moving out of our district after only a couple of months. So I was glad to be able to help her with decoding before she moved on. And then the next district did take the Super Kid stuff to work with her on. So that was great. UFly Foundations would be a cheaper way of doing that. $100 is that manual and you get everything that comes with it. I know that some of the other teachers right now who pull kids are working on UFly Foundations, especially in circumstances where they have kids at different levels in SIPS, but they can review some of the same phonics patterns that all of the kids need. And then with Mind Play, that's another software program. I used that with some second graders a few years ago. I had some kids on Mind Play, some kids on SIPS, and some kids on both. And it was a very small sample size, but the kids who were just on Mind Play had the same progress as the kids who were just doing SIPS. So if I did not have the time to do as many SIPS groups as I do 11 SIPS groups a day. So I do have the time to get everybody into a group that's at his or her level. I would, if I didn't have that time, I would use Mind Play because it does progress their foundational skills pretty well. The kids who did the poorest were the kids who had Mind Play and SIPS, but it turned out that those kids, because I had put them on the double dose, those were the kids who, needed IEPs and stuff like that. So those are some different curricula that I have used that are not part of collaborative classroom. What do we need? We need training and curricula. This slide was supposed to be before the other one, sorry. So a lot of folks say we just, if the teachers are trained, then, they can just do it with a stick in the dirt, like we learned with Orton Gillingham training. But it's just so helpful to have the training and the curricula and not try to have to spend hours and hours and hours writing your own curricula. And right now with UFly Foundations being $100, I haven't used it myself extensively, but everything's there for the phonics. So there's not really much holding people back from being able to get curriculum. South Dakota AIM Pathways. If you're in South Dakota, check this out. I took the trainings last year, the reading and the writing trainings, and they were very good, very helpful for understanding what needs to be done to teach reading efficiently. So some of the non-SIPS collaborative classroom curricula that I have used. So within the collaborative classroom curricula, I have used some of the things that are not SIPS, but are actually meant for tier 1. So guided spelling in fourth grade, the teacher gave me the spelling list and I reinforced them one year. So I spent one day a week going over those spelling patterns and going over the specific words. The challenge I had with that is that, well, I think that they're on the right track in collaborative classroom with the guided spelling. They have like we're going to learn OR words and ORE words this week or something like that. Then they have like a huge chunk that's called words frequently misspelled, and they're just all over the place. I would very much prefer if they had all of the words were that the spelling pattern of the week and including the ones that have, review from previous weeks, instead of the words frequently misspelled. That really threw us off, I think. I think that it wouldn't be that hard to rewrite that. I think if you teach that guided spelling through collaborative classroom, you could just come up with more words that have that spelling pattern in them or something like that. But I did that for one year and I found it actually more helpful to use on that one day a week the Pete Bauer's book that I mentioned earlier. It gives it gives the students a lot more in-depth knowledge about how words are put together. Being a reader, sets 7 to 12, I have also used these are the small group sets that are supposed to be taught in second grade. So the Being a Reader curriculum that we have, the being a reader part ends in second grade, and then we have making meaning third grade and up. And I know that they now have changed it to being a reader K to 5. So we don't have that new addition. But with the sets that we have for 7 to 12, that they're supposed to get through 6 to 10 in second grade, and then 11 and 12 are extra in case you have kids who can read at that level. So my students in title reading do not get up to set 10 while they're in second grade. So at the end of second grade, I have a couple of times doubled up with the classroom teacher. Oh, this is wrong. It should say I do set 7 while the teacher does set 6. So the teacher is doing set 6, which is a fluency set that uses the same books as set 5s. Sets 1 through 5, the kindergarten to first grade sets, are the foundational skills, and the phonics skills are in there. So I would do set 7 while the teacher does set 6. Then in third to fifth grade, with my title reading students, I would continue with sets they didn't get through in second grade. So let's say we ended the year with the classroom teacher in small groups doing set 6 with the students, and I was doing set 7. Then I would pick up with set 8 in third grade for students who are on SIPPS Challenge, because there's not currently a reader for SIPPS Challenge. So for students on SIPPS Challenge, they would do a SIPPS Challenge lesson. And then after the guided spelling, we get out those Being a Reader books. I move a lot more quickly through the lessons. I see what we're supposed to focus on, have them read the book, focus on that thing and move on. Whereas it's not as in-depth as it would have been during second grade in tier 1. Whatever you do, do not replace SIPPS with Being a Reader sets for struggling students. SIPPS is the much more systematic, explicit instruction in those foundational skills. So if you're adding on with Being a Reader, fine, but do not replace SIPPS with Being a Reader. Could you replace Being a Reader with SIPPS? Possibly, if that's going to meet the needs of your school, to replace the Being a Reader, either the small group sets or the large group instruction with SIPPS, then that might be a possibility for you. SIPPS is used in some places in tier 1. SIPPS was originally used in tier 1, and then the company developed the Being a Reader and Making Meaning products to have more comprehensive language arts, such as vocabulary and writing and spelling and grammar and things like that. My concerns about what our collaborative classroom implementation, like the products, not our implementation at my school. Everybody's doing the best job they can with that. I have some concern about some of the products, and I may be off on this because I have not seen everything implemented because I'm in my room doing SIPPS all day. But I have seen the products. One of them that I don't have written down here is that the Being a Reader small group sets, they are very high quality. books, fiction and nonfiction, but they are not knowledge building. We don't learn a little bit about something and then more and then more. It's like we learn about Ruby Bridges and then we learn about ants, and then we learn have a realistic fiction story. So it's just kind of all over the place, which is not unusual for reading curriculum. My concerns, other concerns, being a writer is more of a traditional writing program that focuses on, you know, uh, a mentor text and then going through the writing process and writing and revising and things like that. And I would like to see something that is more explicit and systematic. I've been doing some IEW with my kids, which is incredibly explicit, like how you write each sentence and then how you put those sentences together in a paragraph. But the being a writer curriculum is more like you would generally see in a school. Being a reader, kindergarten sight words before small group sets. So the students have to learn 11 sight words before they have learned the sounds of the letters. So that's not ideal because what is the difference between can and the and if you haven't learned what any of those letter sounds are? You know what the letter names are because SIPPS requires, and being a reader small group sets require 21 letter names. And it's just difficult to get them to memorize these words before we do the reading, the decoding. So that's less than ideal. And I do know that we are supposed to be teaching letters and sounds together, but because of the program that we have, we do the letter names and then we attach the sounds later. But the program still wants us to have the kids know the sight words before the sounds have been attached. So I do have concerns about that. With being a reader, you have to really be careful that you are avoiding tracking kids low in those small groups. So you have kids, let's say it's the beginning of first grade, and you have kids who test into set 4 and kids who test into set 2, or who are continuing, they only got through set 1 in kindergarten, and now they're doing set 2 at the beginning of the school year. You want to make sure you're meeting with those kids in the lower sets more often so that they can get closer to those grade level expectations. Otherwise, we could end up tracking kids low throughout their K-2 years. Students who move out of district, I have some concerns about because they have not had any exposure to the grade level phonics expectations. So especially like first grade, I might send a kid out, we might send a kid to another district during fourth quarter who has never seen long vowel patterns, R control vowel patterns, diphthongs, and things like that, because SIPPS and being a reader, small groups go for mastery instead of exposure, and they're not taught, the phonics skills are not taught in whole groups. So in the past, before SIPPS, when we had journeys, the teacher in first grade would teach something and then I'd follow up and teach it. Okay, we're on R controlled, we're on diphthongs, whatever. And whatever the kids didn't get that year, we'd do the next year in second grade and make sure they solidified those patterns, give them the core phonics survey and work like that. Here, we are only teaching them one skill at a time until it is mastered. I do understand that the small groups for phonics is considered to be the ideal, and mastery makes a lot of sense. But I am concerned if we send a student out of district and then she goes to another district and she's expected to know these things that we have not taught her, and they're not doing a system for reading that's similar to ours. Again, feel free to email me with any information about things I'm missing here, things I'm wrong about, anything during this whole presentation. But this is what I have noticed, and these are my thoughts. Okay, going into SIPPS, this is an important slide. Overall, remember that SIPPS ensures mastery before progressing, so the phonics skills will be taught more slowly. I just talked about that. Remember that students must be grouped according to level in which they placed or nearby. If you have students who are just starting to learn the CVCEs, the silent E, long vowel, and then you have students who have mastered that in R control vowels, they cannot be in the same SIPPS group. So SIPPS groups need to be have students that have tested very similar with very similar needs as far as the phonics patterns that they need. In a situation like mine, where I see 11 groups a day, that works out well. In the past, when I was doing some English language development for students speaking English as a new language, in addition to title reading, that would not have worked. So do keep that in mind if you're considering SIPPS. Also remember that over in tier one, where the classroom teachers are, for the being a reader, the phonics is taught in small groups only in set 1 through 5. 1 through 5 are the sets where they get all their phonics patterns. They're supposed to do sets 1 through 3 in kindergarten and sets 4 and 5 in first grade. That doesn't always happen. So then those are picked up in second grade, the sets that they didn't get to. But it is a different thing than a lot of us are used to, where you teach that phonics skill of the week and then, you work in small groups with kids. The phonics is not taught in whole groups with the collaborative classroom curriculum. Use the iPad. So my first year, so use the card deck app on the iPad, and you just swipe up if they get it, swipe down if they don't, for sight words, sounds, those kinds of things. My first year, I was dealing with cards all over the place, and then I got an iPad, and it just makes it so much easier. The algorithm there stores the information about which sounds or words they need to be presented with again, and those kinds of things. So I definitely recommend using the card deck app, presenting it on an iPad with the on the table when you are delivering SIPPS instruction. I don't use ClassView Pro. I do need to use it. I use it on my laptop in order to enter a new class or group, but then I don't enter the students' names, and I also don't test on there. We tried that. It was kind of a mess trying to get the students' names out of the tier one, being a reader from each classroom into SIPPS, and then trying to test that way. So it's just way easier for me to just create a class, create a group call with a student called like kindergarten or something like that. Joe Schmo, whatever. And it just make sure the group's in there and just teach it, and then just use paper testing has been a lot smoother for me. But that is all available if you do want to test online. You just have to get the student names in there. Um, the sight word or high frequency word learning process. So they do call them sight words and SIPs. So I go along with that, even though we know that sight words also means any word that's that you know by looking at it. But here we're talking about words with unexpected spellings that are high frequency words. So read, spell, read, spell, read has not been tested against heart words and other similar ways of learning sight words. Okay, so I often see this in the Facebook groups. So with the Science of Reading Facebook groups, we have to be careful now. I kind of watched it as it went from like most of the stuff is correct to half of the stuff is correct to in some places, especially the bigger ones, less than half is exactly right. And some of it might be it's like good practice, but it hasn't been tested. So there's not a research study that says that heart words is better than these other words of looking at sight words. So heart words would be you put a heart over the sounds in the word, the letters that represent sounds that are unexpected. And that is a way of applying the science of reading, but it's not something that has been studied against something like the read, spell, read method in SIPPS. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I do know that some people slow down with those sight words, some other educators, and they go ahead and do heart words for the sight words in SIPPS. I have just not found that necessary. Read, spell, read has worked for my students. In SIPPS, everybody does everything, and I love that. There's not waiting for this kid to do that. You are working the whole time. It is very good for engagement, very good for classroom management. I do also have them read back the guided spelling to me individually. And so they've done the spelling together, and then I just have them read around, or maybe they're reading to self for a moment, and then I go and listen to each kid read to me all of their guided spelling words. There are also ways that you can assure that each individual is doing it. You can just adapt as you go along. Drop whatever scaffolds are not needed. So there's different ways to adapt these lessons, and they provide you with ideas for a lot of scaffolds in SIPPS. But if the students don't need them, don't use them. You're trying to get them to independently read and spell as quickly as possible. so that they can be able to bridge over to being able to comprehend, work on their comprehension skills and things like that. So as Anna Gillingham says, go as fast as you can, as slow as you must. So look at the SIPPS, you might be using it, the SIPPS instruction plans, lesson plans, you might be using them exactly as they're written for a while. And then all of a sudden you notice, why am I doing this? They don't need this. One example is that in the guided spelling where the kids are supposed to ask, which and then you say birds spelling number 2 from the mnemonics. And I just ask them, which and then they look and they answer me. So they're actually doing more of the thinking than I am. So whatever you can do to have them do the thinking, to have them do the work, do that. It's a very good program, gives you a lot of scaffolds. Some kids might need that. If they don't, drop them. This is what my mnemonics board looks like. At the end of the year last year. We add things throughout the year. So I teach all the levels of SIPPS and I cannot have stuff all over the room. So I just put up the challenge level poster. And then over on the side, I have either the plus or the extension level cards that are not the vowel cards that are on the challenge poster. Throughout the year, we add things when we notice them. We don't add everything. So when we see bread or breakfast has the EA representing the short E sound. I don't put that up by my edge of the cherry because that's going to confuse my kindergartners, first graders, that kind of thing. But we do add things as we notice them. And then we made up our own little mnemonics. So like, look, a book, ouch, a clown, noisy toy, and haunted saw. And that takes, you can see that that uses the different spellings for those sounds. And the kids really like that, to come up with that, and that helps them remember. Make sure that the kids know what that mnemonic is, because I had a kid look at the flute player one time and call it that trumpet one. Okay, so they need to know it's flute, ooh, 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 ooh. Each Monday, I have the helper point at these and we go through our mnemonics. For beginning mnemonics, I just put them up as we learn them. So, speaking of SIPPS beginning, now I'm going to go through each program and things that I've done over the past few years. Learning letter names, the program that comes with SIPPS beginning requires so much supplementation that I just gave up on it. Most of our students go to preschool at our school and they learn the letter names and sounds, and a lot of them don't remember all of them. That's totally fine. They come to kindergarten. I just need to clean up what they don't know. So I use my sandpaper letters and fluency sheets and puzzles and Jack Hartman videos and just different games and stuff like that. So I have dropped using the learning letter names, and I just clean up the letter names that they don't know so that they can have the 21 to start SIPPS. Do not put all of the sound cards up in the order they're taught. So I did talk about putting the sound cards up in the order that they're taught, but there's one you cannot do that with. The U, the short U under the chair, is taught directly after the fish card, the spelling for F. So do not put those two up in order or you will be sorry. But the rest of them are fine. So you have to be creative in the way you put those up. It is supposed to start during the second semester of kindergarten. That's SIPPS beginning. So it's supposed to start second semester of kindergarten with kids who need it. Before then, they're just doing the whole group work. However, we have started to be more aggressive in when we start this, and it has worked fine. So last school year, we started in October, and we are starting here at the last week of first quarter again, so mid-October for our kindergartners. So we did this last year, and most students in title reading will finish the program, the SIPPS beginning program, before the end of first semester this year. Okay, so the kids I started in October last year, some of them went all the way through lesson 55 and then exited. Some of them went through 55 and then needed to come back and redo some of the lessons. We went back to 21 with some of the kids. And then some of them they didn't get to the end of the book because they needed more time with each lesson. That's fine. But those kids that I started in October and wasn't able to exit at the end of kindergarten, they're all going to finish SIPPS beginning at the end of the first semester in first grade. And that means that they can work pretty far into SIPPS Extension, which is the at-level program for first grade and remediation acceleration for second and third grade. They can work on that, get farther into it than I've had kids get into that in the past by the end of first grade so that they can be better positioned for their reading as they go into the summer before second grade. So that's information that I have learned or I do about SIPPS beginning. And then SIPPS Extension. The student books are so flimsy. They are put together with this one staple and we use them hundreds of times. We have read the cover off of so many books. We read the cover off of a set every semester. You pick it up one time by the cover, it's gone. You open it a few times, the cover pops off, and there's nothing that can be done about it, but I do hope that they fix that with later editions of SIPPS. I have also read taught the cover off of several of my manuals and just gotten other binders and put the pages in there. I always go through extension review after beginning. After you complete SIPPS beginning with, say, first graders, you're supposed to go immediately into extension, the 40 lessons of extension. You are not supposed to go in extension review. There are 15 lessons in extension review. Those 15 extension review lessons are supposed to be for second and third graders who test into SIPPS beginning. They're supposed to not do beginning because beginning is supposed to be kindergarten and first. They're supposed to start at extension review. There are times where you do have to go back to those beginning lessons for kids who have the more emergent skills in second and third grade. But ideally, you would do extension review. But after if you've had kids with you and you finish beginning, you're supposed to go to extension. And I have always just done the extension review. I find that it is too big of a jump up to go from beginning to extension. First of all, in lesson 14 is the only time of extension review that the NG is taught. And you'll miss that if you don't do at least lesson 14. So you could do 14, 15 and then get right into the extension, but I just find it's too large of a jump up for the reading material from the end of beginning to extension. So I always go through extension review between beginning and extension. Extension does not include as much practice with each new phonics patterns as that says SIPPS does. That should say as SIPPS beginning does. Okay, SIPPS beginning, you learn that TH and you just have a ton of words with the TH. In SIPPS extension, they'll teach the pattern and then they'll have a few of those words, but they'll have so many of the review words mixed in. So my next point there, you may need to supplement, especially around 6, because lesson 6 in extension, they start talking about long vowels with silent E, and then all of a sudden they teach all of them, A, E, I, O, and U, and U sound, and also they have suffixes on them and then in a few lessons, especially for kids learning English as a new language. That has not worked for me. In the past, I've supplemented with words from UFly, but I this year just printed out pages for these lessons from the SIPPS portal and then had the kids sort the words by long vowel or short vowel. And that has worked. So supplementing SIPPS with SIPPS. Consider using SIPPS Plus as a bridge between extension and challenge. So now the kids are done with SIPPS beginning, SIPPS extension review, and SIPPS extension. They are supposed to go into challenge. So this happens for me to my second graders. They finish extension sometime during second grade. They are then supposed to go into challenge, which works on the polysyllabic words. I did that for 2 years. I saw when they used to have a Facebook group for discussion of collaborative classroom stuff and SIPPS, teachers were using Plus as a bridge between extension and challenge. And the collaborative classroom people said, do not do that. Plus is meant for students in grades 4 through 12 who would test into what extension is. It's like extension, but it's for the older grades. So I didn't do it, but I always saw those kids struggle when we moved right from extension to challenge. So what we're doing now is at the end of second grade, or at the end of extension during second grade, I do some of the plus lessons. I give them the 4 to 12 grade placement test and put them in whatever plus lesson they test into. The 4th to 12th grade reader, which is Dreams on Wheels and Other Stories, is meant to be of interest to those older kids, but there's nothing inappropriate in there for the younger kids. Plus, when I recorded my last video, I had not taught Plus yet. Now I have, but not at its intended grade. So I have not had any fourth graders or beyond who need plus. The special ed teachers have, and they have used it for the fourth graders and beyond. Um, but I have used it in second grade and for some third graders as that bridge between extension and challenge. And I'm finding that that works well. Now, I have this statement here. SIPPS Plus is the best curriculum for foundational skills, for K-2 skills for older readers, kids in grades 4 to 12, young people in grades 4 to 12. Prove me wrong. I have not seen anything that is as good as SIPPS Plus, that's systematic, explicit, with readers that are respectful and appropriate for those older readers, the Dreams on Wheels reader. If there is something else, please do let me know about it. All right, my next slide is not coming up here. It is the last slide. Here we go. SIPPS Challenge is the highest level of the SIPPS curriculum. It teaches polysyllabic word reading. In my first video, I talked about having a student that we were doing the syllable types and those kinds of things. Still 0 words at the end of third grade. We did SIPPS Challenge at the beginning of fourth grade. By the end of first quarter, the student was read 13 out of 24 polysyllabic words from a different test from the core multiple measures book. So anyway, I have just really seen a lot of great gains with SIPPS Challenge. So my first point is SIPPS Challenge is the best curriculum for helping students decode polysyllabic words. Prove me wrong. If there's something else out there, please do let me know because I do try to keep up on this. I read every week lots of information about the science of reading and implementation. Now I have heard about rewards by Anita Archer, and I have seen the curriculum, but I have not used the curriculum. It does look good. I love that it has connected text. It has practice, but it is not as explicit as SIPPS Challenge, where we're taking apart the word, we're putting together the word, you just over and over and over and over and over and over. But I could be wrong. Maybe other folks have used SIPPS Challenge before and then have used rewards and have found rewards to be more helpful. So do, share any of those stories with me. But as of right now, it's my belief that SIPPS Challenge is the best curriculum for helping students decode polysyllabic words. I did wonder about using Challenge for 3 years. So once I get kids into Challenge, because remember now I'm slowing it down and using some bridging with the plus between extension and challenge. Once we get them into challenge, they usually get done in 1 year or 2 year, almost always. So either we do it in third grade and they're done. And by the way, there's different levels of words that are supposed to be in their oral vocabulary within SIPPS Challenge. There's a second grade set of words, the B words are for third grade, and then the C words are for fourth and beyond. So either kids finish it in third grade and they've got it, they're done, or they need third grade and fourth grade with me, so the 2 years on this. There have been some students where I have wondered about using it for a third year. Like if it hasn't really gotten them to fluently be able to pronounce those polysyllabic words, read and spell those polysyllabic words, should I use it a third year or should I try rewards or something like that? I did use it for the third year in fifth grade. So I put do it one-on-one if possible. So we're by that time you need to be very small groups, one-on-one, two-on-one, something like that. I really like the one-on-one because the student can control the iPad and swipe themselves through it. So I have had students do 2 lessons and 2 guided spellings in a day. I have not focused as much during year 3 of SIPPS Challenge on reading the connected text. We just really drill the SIPPS Challenge and then we finish it in less than a semester. Then the student can go on to Reading Plus, and then I can also fill in any missing phonemes, give like the core multiple measures phonics survey or something like that and pull them out of their Reading Plus to work on specific skills. But then after the third time of SIPPS challenge, they have really mastered reading every word that's in their oral vocabulary. So I was nervous about giving them a third year of SIPPS challenge, but it worked. And for the kids being as young as they are, that's a really neat thing. So to me, it's like, oh, that's fifth grade, that's the oldest grade, but to have mastered being able to read every word when you have some struggles with that and you're only in fifth grade, that's actually a really good thing. The first 2 years, I went to challenge after extension in second grade. I don't know why there's a random one there, sorry. Now I use plus as a bridge between extension and challenge. I did explain that earlier. If I wasn't clear or if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out. Also, if you want to tell me something again that I said wrong or that you have information to share with me, please share that because I really, really, really enjoy keeping up with what is the best curriculum for students. All ELA curriculum, but especially foundational skills, since I am a title reading teacher and that's the area I'm working most with. Definitely, I do want to know about comprehension, vocabulary, spelling as well. So just let me know all that kind of stuff, grammar, that stuff. But whatever information you have, please share with me. Thank you very much for your time.